Hi, everyone. I'm Kay Berkner here today with Dr. Tom Phelan, author and creator of 123 Magic and the author of the Manager Mom Epidemic. Dr. Phelan, welcome.
Hi, Kay.
How you doing today?
I'm hanging in there. COVID's a little up and down, but most of the time, okay.
Yes, a little up and down. I was actually talking with my kid's pediatrician yesterday, and she said that in our town in particular, she's seen a little bit of an uptick this week. So, I think everybody's dealing with the uncertainty in different ways. So
Yeah. Can't wait for a vaccine.
yeah, that'd be nice. So today we are going to talk about one of the principles that is really core to the 123 Magic program, and that is counting. So Dr. Phelan, can you tell us what counting is and when you might use it?
Yeah, counting, first of all, you're going to use counting for negative or obnoxious behavior. So arguing, yelling, whining, fighting, screaming, teasing, sibling rivalry, and throwing the football in the house can also all be counted. And counted is a real simple warning system. So if a child's doing something they shouldn't do, you can say that's one. And that's the first warning that they're supposed to terminate that activity. And after they get used to it, over a period of time, and sometimes it only takes a few hours for them to get used to it, they will usually stop at a 1 or a 2. If they do get on to a 3, then there's going to be a consequence. Could be a rest period, break time, timeout alternative, or whatever. So it's very simple, very gentle. You explain if you have to. Most of the time you don't have to. And it works. It stops the negative behavior.
Fantastic. Yeah, I like how you say you can explain if you want to, but most of the time you don't have to, because kids know, right? Like they know that you're not supposed to throw the ball in the house because mom's told you 200 times before, and they know they shouldn't be arguing, they shouldn't be hitting their brother or sister, they shouldn't be whining about not getting Twinkies before dinner.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's one of the funniest things about 123 Magic is parents will say, how are the kids supposed to know what they're doing wrong? And as you said, well, you've said it 200 times before. I think by now they have at least a hint of, they're not supposed to be fighting with their siblings and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. So you gave us a good list of things that we will use counting for. Are there things that we should not be using counting for?
Yeah, pretty much. What parents often forget when they're starting the 123 is that we have two sort of categories of problem behavior. One is obnoxious behavior, negative behavior, the stuff I mentioned. The other that you don't want to use counting for is what we call positive behavior or start behavior. For that, you want to have routines. And start behavior that you don't use counting for is like getting up and out in the morning, homework, eating, going to bed, and things like that. The positive behaviors you want the kids to start and sustain.
Got it. Okay, terrific. And if you want to know more about start behaviors, we talked about that last week.
We did.
So what age range of kids will counting work for? Like at what point is a kid too young to kind of get what the counting is? And at what point are they too old and they're just going to be like, yeah, okay, whatever.
The too young part is about 18 months. So you can start about 18 months. Some parents say, well, they can't even talk at 18 months or can't talk very much, but they can understand what you're saying. And so kids' receptive language precedes their expressive language. So they'll get it. It may take, a week or 10 days or something like that. But you can do it starting at 18 months. And going out the other end, if you've been using counting for years, you can count even into the adolescent years. Which is interesting. I had a couple the other day, and they said our kids came home from college. They had to come back from college, and they're 23 and 24, and they were using counting. That was pretty funny. But anyway, the top end, if you've not been using counting, you're pretty much not going to start with 12 and over. That's more into the adolescent program, and it's a different kind of a different ball game with the children.
Okay, so for kids that are in that 2 to 12 or 18 months to 12 range, I know you often get asked if this will work for kids with ADHD. Will this work for kids who are on the autism spectrum or who have had other diagnoses? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, there's not too much restriction. The only thing about the 123 is the child has to have a mental age of about 2. And in fact, the program was developed with a large cohort of ADHD kids, including some of my close relatives. And so it's good with ADHD kids. And with kids on the spectrum, you don't have to change too much. Some of those children will get a little nervous with a 1, so we sometimes do it just a visual, a picture of some kind to cue them in. But kids with learning disabilities, ADHD, bipolar, depressed, a whole lot of things, it really can work well, and you don't have to change it a lot.
Okay, terrific. Can you share with us, because I've gotten to hear a lot of these stories from you and I think they're really fun. Can you share with us one of your favorite reactions from a parent or from a family who started using the counting?
Yeah, well, I've had a lot. One of my favorite stories is a mom who used it, and she started doing it with her preschooler, and it took 3 hours for the child to get cued into it and start responding well. And she wrote me and she said, "Thank you for giving me back my 4-year-old." So that's one of my favorite stories. People also ask us, where'd you get it's kind of a silly title, 1, 2, 3 magic. Are you claiming magical powers? And we are not claiming magical powers. It's just that a lot of parents say it works like magic. So on. So that's always fun to hear that kind of thing, because the people get their house shaped up. The parents are back in charge. No arguing, yelling, spanking. I mean, it's hard to beat that.
Yeah, absolutely. I know when we started using it with my now 5.5-year-old daughter, we were on, I would say, the rougher end of sort of getting ramped up. It took a little while. She's what I would term an extremely strong-willed child. So we had some trouble with going into rest period, with staying there. And at this point, she, as strong-willed as she is, she will walk herself up, and she gets upset about it, but she understands timeout doesn't start until you're quiet, and she'll go by herself now. And I remember the first time that she did it on her own, I was, I kept my game face on, but I was sitting there thinking like, oh, it's working. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. So,
well, that's a nice moment.
Yeah, it's a pretty good feeling, and to not have had to yell or fight about it to get the behavior to stop is really fantastic. Which leads me to my last question, which is, what is the most important thing for parents to remember when they start using the counting, or even if they've been using it for a while?
Yeah, probably the most important thing, there's 2 that tie in together, but the most important thing for parents is to know when to stop talking. You have to know, it sounds funny, but you have to know when to shut up, because parental talking is one of the most aggravating things that kids encounter. And if you're aggravating a kid with your chatter or prattle or babble or nagging or whatever, now you got an aggravated kid you're asking to cooperate. So between the counts, for example, if you say that's 1, they get 5 seconds to shape up. You keep quiet during that time. You don't say, "Now look at me when I'm talking to you. What's the matter with you? Did God put you around to drive me crazy or what?" You do that, you're just ruining the whole, you're not going to get anywhere. You're ruining the whole thing. And along with the no talking, we call it, or really minimal talking, is what we call no emotion. So you want to keep your cool. And the nice thing about the 1, 2, 3, since you are able to interrupt the negative process early on, you don't get as mad. And so you don't feel like talking or yelling, and you don't get so excited, which makes the whole thing work a lot better.
Yeah, absolutely. And makes the whole interaction more pleasant for everybody, I think.
Well, it does. You get rid of the negative behavior. What do you have? Kids are cute. They're adorable. But they're not adorable when they're whining. And so you get rid of the negative behavior. What do you have? You have an adorable kid, and you will like them and love them more. And vice versa. They'll feel the same way about you. And now you have time for the good stuff.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Phelan.
Thanks, Kay.
If you know someone who needs to hear this, please share this video with them or tag them in the comments. And if you're not already on our newsletter list, head on over to 123magic.com to get signed up. We send out a newsletter every week with parenting tips, sometimes freebies, and all the information about Dr. Phelan's upcoming free online seminars. So head on over 123magic.com to sign up, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much.